right, guys, welcome to the latest episode of Blood Money. Today we have Dr. Tracy Scott. How are you doing, Dr. Tracy?
I'm well. You?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks
Good.
for asking. I wanted to get you on the Blood Money podcast because you do something very special. I mean, we in the past we've done a lot of episodes about using natural medicines. You know, one of our favorite topics has been using psilocybin to help combat PTSD. The reason why we feel that's important is because a lot of our veteran friends that come back from wars and that sort of thing have PTSD. And if you look at
Mhm.
what the pharma industrial complex does, they often put them on drugs that simply mutes the pain and really doesn't do anything in terms of healing the PTSD, which I think could be said across the board about pharmaceuticals. And hence why we find, people that do things differently, like Dr. Tracy Scott, so interesting. So, Dr. Tracy, first of all, start by telling us who you are, your background. Let's get to know you a little bit.
Okay, that sounds good.
Hmm.
Um, well, I am primarily a scientist. I started in the science realm working for like biotechnology companies, so kind of on the other side of the fence, I would say. And then I have a PhD. I was a nurse to begin with. I was a nurse anesthetist and worked for many years, and then went on and got a PhD in nutrigenomics, which is the study of nutrition and genetics and how they kind of work together. Um, and then I was doing a lot in biotechnology and cancer trials and things of that nature, and really saw that there was an opportunity to do things a little bit differently. You know, Western medicine tends to be so rigid in certain ways, and there was no studies on natural medicines. And so, as I would propose things to these companies, they would just sort of shoo me away and say, "That's not in our interest. Obviously, there's no money in that." And at the same time, ironically, I was sick with something called Lyme disease. I'm sure your listeners probably are pretty familiar. It's been something that's maybe not as talked about, but I got bit by a tick years ago and became quite ill during the time of my work in biotechnology. So I had to take a leave of absence. And I was placed on a lot of, pharmaceutical medicines. I was taking up to like 80 things a day between antibiotics and, some supplements and things of that nature. And really nothing was helping. I mean, I spent a long time trying to heal from that. And during the bouts of wellness that I had, when my body sort of felt quasi well, I would go and travel and go on these sort of expeditions and study with indigenous people. I've always been sort of drawn to indigenous tribal culture, and I would go to places like Africa or South America to study with people about really ethnobotany. Are there alternatives to healing the body outside of pharmaceuticals? And I learned a lot along the way just from them using nature as their own apothecary. And I thought, this is really the way, nature is the way to heal our bodies. And it became evident to me that the mind, excuse me, is something that really is not incorporated into our Western culture. When we think of Western medicine, we think of the physical, we think of the body, but we don't always oftentimes think of the mind. And it wasn't until I really started looking at my own mind through hypnotherapy, and I did start to embark on some psychedelic therapies like psilocybin, like ayahuasca, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I'm missing such a big piece to healing." Yeah, is things that were trapped in my own subconscious mind that I probably was housing as a manifestation, and it was making my physical body sick. So, yeah, I started to kind of go down this path of really understanding what else was in my mind. And probably, about the fifth or sixth time of sitting with ayahuasca, the plant literally spoke to me. It's a feminine plant. We call it oftentimes like Mother Aya. And she said, it's time for you to go home to where you're from originally, to Africa, and work with the master of all plants, Iboga. And I, was sort of taken aback. It was during a journey that I had heard this, and I had to research what it was. I mean, this was many years ago. It was like over a decade ago now. And
It's called Iboga?
Iboga, yes,
Iboga.
Iboga.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Iboga. So it's comes from like equatorial Africa, Gabon, Cameroon, the Congo, so around that area. And off I went. Yeah, so I scheduled my trip and I was off to Gabon, Africa, to investigate like what is this really? What are the things that it can do beyond what I've already done for my mind to help heal? So that's a big part of my journey, and
And
from there became initiated with the Witty, which is the tribe. It's not a tribe; it's really they're a group of people actually that founded the plant many, many years ago, and it's really a school of life is how we describe Witty. It's a culture around Iboga. It's a way of life. So it's been a very powerful healing modality for me. It's incredible.
I mean, tell us a little bit, for people out there that have never done psilocybin, it's
Mhm.
okay. If you talk to the government officials, they'll tell you it's a drug. They'll probably say it's there with, cocaine, heroin, and all
Mhm.
that stuff. But for people that have actually done it, and I would reference a good buddy of ours who's actually no longer here. Sadly, he had a massive heart attack and died. But
Mhm.
prior when he was around, he told me that, he had major PTSD, major, and he goes back with a friend of mine, Steve Sanson, who's also a veteran, about 30 years. And Steve eloquently has described to me the struggles of Mr. Boone Cutler, who I believe is an American hero. He went out there, served our country, came back with major PTSD. There's a lot of testimonials out there about him, how he had major alcohol problems and pill problems,
Mhm.
full on alcoholic. So then he does psilocybin, which is mushrooms. And the next day wakes up with no PTSD, doesn't feel like he wants to drink alcohol. And it literally one experience changed his life. And prior to him passing away, sadly, we had talked about doing a show on psilocybin. And for people out there that don't know what that is, I mean, it's not, for people that have done it, it's not like what would be a drug. It feels like more of a cleansing of the spirit if you do it the right way, and in moderation. Tell us a little bit about how it works with Iboga. How does it look like? Are you drinking something? What is the feeling? What could you experience? What are some of the case studies that you've seen?
Yeah, all great questions. So iboga is a root. It's actually a small perennial shrub, about 4 meters, and it has what we it's there. It's comprised of alkaloids, so a little bit different than psilocybin. Has 12 alkaloids in it that are very, very powerful, and it is obviously psychoactive. So you do hallucinate, but it's a little different than the other plants. I would say it's a much more introspective process. And so a lot of times the other plants like psilocybin or, even ayahuasca, they sometimes will take you outside of yourself. People have they describe these kind of experiences where they relate to the cosmos or, the universe around, the universe itself or source. And that is very, very powerful, especially for people with PTSD and different types of issues that they're coming in with. But there's nothing like Iboga because Iboga is, again, like I told you, it's a root. And so it really is about the individual. It's very introspective, which makes it much more powerful and robust for healing trauma because it's about you. It's a life review, is really how people describe it. They can see kind of past, present, and future and where they're going.
Like a
And the
life
other
audit, basically?
it's a life audit. It really is a life audit, and it tends to be more unbiased. And so people get oftentimes afraid of like, well, what if I see something scary or if it's a trauma that I can't manage? And really, you are an unbiased viewer of your life, and it's very prescriptive. So, unlike some of the others that leave you a little bit like ambiguous as to like, well, I saw this, but I don't really understand what it means. Iboga is very African in its nature in the way in which it describes things to you. It's very black and white. It's like, nope, it's this and this. Yeah. And I say that because people come away with it with very specific instructions on here's where I am and here's where I need to go and how I need to get there. So people really like it from that perspective. It doesn't leave you with a lot of questions. It gives you a real specific roadmap. It is a root, as I told you, so we grind it. We make it very fine. It's fine matter, and people eat it like actual root bark. That's its nickname is the root bark. I tend to have ways in which I can disguise it for people because the taste is very, very bitter. It's plant material, and so plant material doesn't taste good. Even mushrooms don't always taste great because it's a plant. Iboga again is very acidic, it's very bitter, and so oftentimes I will encapsulate it or use different mechanisms to get it down people so it's a little bit more palatable.
Wow, wow. Okay, so experience-wise, I mean, is there some samples you could give, like the Boone Cutler sample, for example? Somebody that's basically, pretty much suicide on the installment plan, drinking himself to death. And uh, one of the testaments to his health is that he got his mind fixed, but still suffered a major heart attack, and this probably
Mm.
was the accumulation of a lot of stress on his body and mind. But he did, I could say he did live probably the last decade and a half of his life, at least with mental peace. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the case studies?
Yeah, the case studies, the people that come to me oftentimes have tried other things. A lot of them have tried different modes of healing, I would say. Often it's like Iboga is not the one that they start with. Yeah, it's like the Mount Everest of plants. And so you kind of start down with psilocybin or even ayahuasca, or a lot of people try ketamine for maybe refractory depression. So by the time they get to me or to an experience like Iboga, they've tried a lot of things. So deep-seated traumas, people do come with addictive patterns. Iboga is really known for that. It's really known for the addiction interruption piece. It's very powerful at resetting those dopaminergic pathways, the thing that creates the addiction to begin with. Not only with substances, but people come with all kinds of addictions. It could be porn addiction, it could be your phone addiction. Oftentimes we all have an addiction to just even our negative thought patterns, right? That go through our mind always. And so it is very powerful on that stand from that perspective. People, I think, in terms of the case studies that you asked, people walk away and it's not an immediate, yeah, it's not something where they walk away and they go, oh my God, I'm forever changed. This is just a panacea. It takes a lot of post integration work. And that word is used a lot in the field of psychedelics. I'm sure you've heard it. It's like, okay, you really have to integrate the experience. Well, integration is key in any of these experiences, especially Iboga, because it doesn't come all at once. It trickles in. It's almost like having aha moments or where people have like an epiphany. It comes in little dosages where people go, oh my gosh, this totally makes sense now. That part that I saw on the journey, I'm seeing it and I get it. And it starts to stay, it stays with people. It's a long half life. So, unlike the others that are quicker, it stays with people longer. The journey itself can be up to 36 hours. And so you can imagine the metabolites of Iboga become then ibogaine and then turn into nor-ibogaine, and that stays with people for, sometimes 6 months or longer. So they need that integration. They need the hand-holding, they need the coaching post a journey to just make sense of it all. And that's why I love Iboga. It's because it's the stickiest in my mind. Being a scientist myself, it's like I like results. I like to be able to quantify things and say, did it work? Was it just a spiritual experience or were there some real, hard things that we can quantify to show that people really do make changes in terms of neuroplasticity in their brain? And I do measure people's neurotransmitters going into a journey. So we have a baseline. What's your serotonin doing? What's your glutamate? What's your dopamine stores looking like? And then we retest them after Iboga at different intervals. And we can see, massive changes in their neurotransmitters. And that helps people in so many different ways, right? So it helps their mood, it helps them process trauma, it helps with, again, neuroplasticity. It helps with all of this neural regeneration that we talk about with a lot of these psychedelics, but nothing does it like Iboga. Nothing.
Oh, wow. So, I can't say this is a new substance or element to me. First time I heard about it was through our mutual friend. But
Hmm.
I'm wondering, like, when it comes to psilocybin, what I've observed is that Yes, there's people that abuse it, and I don't know if that's very effective. But from my point of view, based upon past experiences, it would seem as though you could do it once every 6 months, and it does for many have a mental reset
Right.
and used in moderation. That's I've heard that 4 to 6 month number quite a bit. There's people that go a little too crazy with it, and I don't know if I
Yeah.
recommend it. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Mhm.
That this is something that you do almost like as the world accumulates
Mhm.
challenges with your mental headspace, and then you go through reset and you feel renewed in a way. How does it work with Iboga? How often does one have to do it? And how long does that last? Is it like a complete cleansing? You do it once, or is it periodic?
Yeah, good question, Vem. It's a little bit like psilocybin, right? So we bring people in, and it depends on the person. It depends on their level of trauma, what they're experiencing, what their intentions are coming in. What they have been battling. I would say what their struggles are. Some people need more than others in terms of just follow up. But we oftentimes, what we call the initial journey is that we will flood somebody. We'll give them like psilocybin, you get a bigger dose up front. And then after they go home, we do the integration coaching, and we oftentimes will microdose people for a period of time. And so that helps to just maintain that golden window of neuroplasticity that's still pliable. Your mind and your brain is still pliable. You have a window. And so we like to microdose at very small amounts of Iboga, and people take it, every other day, 3 times a week, kind of similar to psilocybin, I would say. And it really helps people stay on track. It really helps people implement a lot of those integration changes. If we're teaching somebody to meditate, for example, or to be more somatic, which is like, okay, this is how you get more into your body, and you're connecting your thoughts and your mind and your body together. It helps them focus. Yeah, it's a really good tool that we often use. Most people do what I would call like a micro tune-up, where they'll come back to me a couple times a year. So it's a good reset, as you described. It tends to be like as the world gets crazier, people do need to have, a little bit of a reset in terms of like, okay, they're dealing with a lot. The world is hard. hmm
Now,
Yes.
about the world being hard, I mean, what are we doing in our world right now that is, I mean, it just seems as though everything is so anti-human spirit, where we're just accumulating all this nonsense. I worked in Hollywood for like 30 years, and people's priorities are all screwed up, and that's why you see a lot of egocentrism, a lot of narcissism, and then a lot of drug addiction and addiction to things like sex and like drugs, alcohol. I mean, you name it. What are we doing, especially in our American culture, that needs to be addressed so people don't have, I mean, it's great, this is an amazing substance, it sounds like, but what are we doing wrong that is resulting in misery of people's spirit?
Yeah, I really think it comes down to one thing, is purpose. I feel like people have lost purpose. They've lost their essence. Everything really drowns that out. Yeah. It's almost like it's diluting people's essence and who they truly are inside their soul. I mean, we've got so much that is a distraction in this world. And I do feel like these plants really help people understand who their true identity is. Boga in particular, because it does really help people have those introspective emotions, and people come in with intentions specifically around purpose. What am I meant to do in this world? What kinds of things really are going to feed my soul outside of just it being a transaction, right? Like a job where you're punching in and punching out, and yes, you earn money, but does it feed you? Does it feed your soul in a certain way? So people walk out with true purpose, where they go, "Oh my gosh, I'm leaving my 9 to 5 job. I know I make a lot of money, but I'm going to transition into something totally different that's worthy of um, something that's more soul purposeful." And that changes everything for most people. It really does.
Wow, 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 that's so interesting. Is there anything we didn't touch upon on the Iboga topic that's important for the viewers
Yeah.
to know?
Yes, glad you asked that because a lot of people will hear iboga and they think, oh, okay, ibogaine. So ibogaine is an alkaloid, one of the most active alkaloids out of that whole root of iboga plant that is used for addiction. And there are 11 other alkaloids, not just ibogaine. But people, when they think of iboga, oftentimes will think ibogaine. And ibogaine, there's a lot of ibogaine detox centers in Mexico. If you Google it, people, there's a lot of places that do that. And that more is for a physical detox. It does detox the mind. It's almost a defrag of the mind. But people do go to those places, like you'll hear the Texas Ibogaine Initiative. They go down to Mexico and they do Ibogaine, or now Texas has approved Ibogaine as a substance for veterans, particularly with PTSD. It is very, very helpful. I don't want to take anything away from it because it's just getting us on the map, right? It's getting it on the map, and more because its dosing is more predictable. It has more of a concentrated byproduct, so it's mixed with HCl, and the providers can really help to predict the dosage a lot more than iboga. So that's why I think it's been approved more than iboga. But to me, iboga is the OG. It's the real deal. Nature doesn't make any mistakes. And all of those alkaloids synergistically work together to not only provide somebody with a physical detox, but they get the mental detox and the spiritual piece. So they get that psycho spiritual experience that you wouldn't necessarily get with just ibogaine. And that would be an important distinction I would want people to know, because oftentimes I get clients that have come from those ibogaine detox centers and then they do iboga. Yeah, they do the whole experience, the full route, and they go, wow, that's totally different. So I think it just really helps to bookend those experiences for people, who have deep trauma, who have other things that they're battling. They get that spiritual piece to it and they go, oh my gosh, yeah, this is very different than the experience I had with just the ibogaine. So yeah, it's a sacred medicine. And again, it's used in nature with the tribe in Africa is a whole root. All of those alkaloids again work synergistically together. You wouldn't bake a cake with just flour, so why would you give somebody, only one ingredient to the whole cake? Yeah, it's not going to rise in the same way that you would have a full spectrum experience with the root itself.
Oh, wow. This sounds really cool. You're like the world's leading expert on this topic.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I
I've
mean,
been doing it a
who
long
would be?
time.
I mean, who would be? I'm curious, because I again, like, if you ask me about psilocybin, I could probably tell
Yeah.
you people that have been doing it for a while. I mean, how would you rate yourself in terms of, where you are in the, sphere of experience in this topic?
I think, gosh, it's hard for me to talk about myself in certain ways, but I do think I have a rare background in that I have the medical background. I'm a PhD, so I have the ability to be able to really keep people safe. I have an understanding of physiologically what it does to the brain and the body. I'm very cautious with testing. I make sure that I'm vetting each client properly, and I have the spiritual side to me. I've studied with many indigenous tribes. I've been initiated in Africa, three different lineages of Iboga. Just actually got back from Africa just the other day. I've been twice this year. So I'm constantly doing my own spiritual work and walking my own spiritual path. So sometimes I feel like people that hold this medicine, they're either, they're coming at it from a very spiritual place and they've been initiated, they've done the Africa thing, but maybe they lack the medical knowledge, right? That medical know-how. Or on the converse, they're just coming at it from more of a clinical perspective. Like maybe they do have the clinical and the medical knowledge, but they haven't done any of the initiations, the deep spiritual work themselves. And so I do feel like I am where science meets spirit is kind of how I dub myself.
What have you learned about God with your Iboga experiences?
Well, Iboga means God. It means the creator within. It means the creator of all. And so really it's an incredible, ooh, it's such an incredible connection that it has to God, and it reconnects people to God. You know, you can't help walk away from that experience and think to yourself, there is something so much bigger about that journey than just me alone. You know, we're like little teeny specks in comparison to the world around us. And it brings God into like a hyper focused state. It really does. I just came back from Africa, had my own deep experience there. And before I went, I can tell you, I saw the numerology is big for me. And I always, for probably 18 months, I've been seeing 333, you know, that number 33 in combination 33, 333. And the first message that I got from my boga from the plant was, this is God speaking now. Uh-huh. And Iboga is here, the tribe is here, but I'm sitting in the middle, and this is God speaking directly to you. You have been seeing that number because it's the Holy Trinity. And so it was, you know, 12 hours of God speaking to me directly. It was wow. It was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had.
You say Holy Trinity, so is this, I mean, are you leaned more towards Christianity, or what is the I'm curious, like, because we have all these religions, people always,
Yeah.
argue which one's the real one.
Mhm.
Where do you stand in terms of your, spirituality?
Well, it's such a profound, deep question, Vam, because Iboga it's hard, you know. I think a lot of times indigenous people for many years they have the connection to God but differently than we do, you know, not from the religious side. It's God is the creator, God is within, God is in the trees, God is everywhere. um and when I was initiated years ago in a country called Gabon, I would say that the witty in certain areas of equatorial Africa tend to be more animist. So they don't use a lot of the Christian elements. They don't necessarily talk about God as such. And when I just went back to be initiated in September, I was initiated into a lineage called the Fang tradition, which is really they were first founded by the missionaries. And so the missionaries came to parts of equatorial Africa, primarily some parts of Gabon and Cameroon. And that was more about Christianity. You know, they brought those Christian elements in. They brought in God, they brought in Jesus, they brought in those teachings. And so I love that side of what I've done and the work I've done with the Fang, because it is all about the light. And I think in a lot of these traditions, especially for Westerners, you have to know how to walk in the light because some of the work we do is pretty heavy. You know, there's times, and I don't want to freak out your viewers, but people walk around with maybe entity attachments or they've got some dark energy attached to them, maybe through some of these experiences with facilitators that don't understand how to protect them properly. And so they're an open portal and they're taking on some energy that is not ideal. And so we as facilitators have to understand, you know, what that means. You know, how do you counteract negative entities and dark energies? You can't do it unless you're connected to God. You can't do that unless you're walking a straight line with the light. And that's one thing that I really am strong about is that my connection to God is the most important part of this entire experience and the work that I do.
What have you learned about Christ in your journeys?
um gosh, you know, I've learned that I need to open up my own horizons and my own mind and not be so dogmatic in terms of like, okay, this is the Bible and this is the only teaching that there is. Iboga had shown me that Jesus was an Essene, you know, and I went back to learn a lot about the Essenes and the culture and where that came from and Qumran and where Jesus really came from. And so, um, uh, you know, the Gnostic Gospels and the original Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, those all are very early text, even before the Bible. And so when you think about Christ and you think about Christ consciousness, to me, you can't get away with not understanding where Jesus came from, right? Like, I really love that knowledge and I love learning about that because there's a whole, I would say, subculture around it that's very important. And so I tend to be not so dogmatic as like this is the only way. Mhm.
What do you think happens after we depart from these meat suits?
Well, it's an important lesson from Woody as well, is that our soul exists beyond death. I believe in that.
I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think happens where flow I mean, I always wonder, this might be a little deep, there's such a huge universe if you think about it, to get to the next
Mhm.
habitable planet, you gotta travel like 200 billion light years or something ridiculous, which is absolutely
Mhm.
impossible, to do with modern aviation or rockets or whatever, right? I always wonder, like, they say that we're only you seeing 3% of what's really out there, or whatever. Our minds could only see so much. We could see only so many of the spectrums, and here. And I just wonder, is it that all of that becomes like literally this? You know what I mean? Like the entire
Mhm.
universe is literally this. You are able to transcend your spirit and see everything, which I could tell you from my own psilocybin experiences, when you reach that level of trying to go beyond your capability, it's impossible. It's like so that's where I think people lose their mind on some of these psychedelics is because we can't even handle it, in my opinion. But tell me, I mean, what could you tell? I mean, I know it's a very deep question, but what do you think? What do you theorize?
I think we all have soul contracts. Yeah. I feel as though we, even before we come into this earthly meat suit, as you described it, we have contracts that we fulfill when we come here. And I mean, some people call it karma. I do definitely believe in that. But I also believe that, yeah, we have a contract to fulfill while we're here. And some people come back, depending on their soul's age, right? Sometimes people have older souls and sometimes people have younger souls. And I believe that sometimes people have to come back a number of times to learn the lessons. It's like Kabbalah. It's like we have to learn, we have to evolve, we have to grow and expand. And so to do that, we oftentimes have to come back and learn some lessons again, even if they're hard, until we get that right. And so, yeah, I'm really interested in all of that and how we see our soul to be able to think about the lives that we have lived. Yeah, because I know personally, I can give you an example. Um, I tend to be a channel. So oftentimes when I'm in whatever plant, it's not even just Iboga, I speak different languages fluently. People have heard me speak Aramaic. I don't know where it comes from. It's obviously coming from a place that my soul remembers. It's awakening parts of me that have lived this domain or this matrix before. So I do believe that yeah, we're always reincarnating. We're always coming back to continue the work. And for me, it just feels like I've been a healer in almost every lifetime. That's what I see anyway.
So is it that theorizing here? Is it that you keep coming back and until you fulfill your purpose and then there's this thing called heaven or eternal life? I mean, how does that work, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that we are here for a finite period of time and we continue to do the work that our soul needs to do so that we can then go to a place of eternal life with the people that, are already in eternal life land. And so I don't have the answers. I don't really know. I only know what I've experienced here in this meat suit and this in this realm. And yeah, I tend to be pretty realistic about life here and just walking a straight line with God. And that's what I think. I think that if we continue to do the work here on earth and we pay it forward and we're helping the collective to also evolve, then, there is an afterlife. I do believe that.
This has been an amazing interview, Dr. Tracy. Is there anything we didn't touch upon that's worth mentioning? Also, how people could get in contact with you, learn more about what you do, Iboga, anything you want to say?
Yeah. I think if people are really interested in this in Iboga, it's great to research, but not to do too much Googling because yeah, there's a whole um, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation obviously out there, and most of the information, again, as I told you and shared with you earlier, is about ibogaine. And so that's, for people usually that have substance abuse addictions or, a lot of the veterans that are experiencing TBIs, PTSD. But uh, in my opinion, working with this plant for over a decade now, nothing replaces iboga, nothing. I think there is a place for ibogaine, I do, but again, the whole root experience with all of the alkaloids is one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had, and I know other people as well. Our mutual friend, I'm sure, has told you about his experience, and it's um, it's just so powerful and robust. It's wow, life changing for sure. So if people want to get in touch with me, I work in Costa Rica because obviously the work here in the United States is not legal. People can get in touch with me through my website, revellaretreats.com. And we do a different process. I don't take a lot of people at the same time. We only take 2 people at the same time because I do believe that Iboga is such an intense personal experience. It's not good to journey with a lot of other people. It's good to just really focus on yourself. And so we work privately with folks and we work, like I said, with no more than 2 at a time so that we can give people that kind of personalized attention that's required.
Wow, Dr. Tracy, this has been an amazing episode. I'm so glad our friend introduced us.
Yeah,
This is
same.
so in the lane of what we're trying to do. My business partner and I, Mindy Robinson, we've been doing like just talking smack about politics via investigative journalism and how nasty and corrupt it is. And just like, we came to a point where we're like, this is all good. She's been at it a lot longer than I have. Very prominent investigative journalist, and she got really tired of the nonsense, what's happening in the matrix, and we decided, we're gonna set up a health website, which we do. We've done quite a number of episodes, but something very health centric, dealing with these modes, including supplements and things you could take to just feel better. And it's made, living that life for both of us has made such a dramatic change. And part of that
Mm,
is embracing things like, psilocybin, because you get a little bit of PTSD doing what we do. And, both of us, regardless of, all this, the insanity of this world, I mean, I think we're living a mentally healthy lifestyle because of things we've embraced. So this is so great that, by the way, that website which is coming out is called, I hope I don't get this wrong because we just set it up. It's called IamTheInfinite.com. There's nothing on there right now, but certainly we're going to be posting this interview, and we'd love to have your links on there too once the website is
yeah.
set up. So this was awesome. Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Unless you have anything
Yeah,
else to
thank you.
say, we could, you know.
Got it. Yeah, no, I don't actually. Just the opportunity to be here speaking with you. I'm so appreciative, and I'm here for questions. If anybody has any questions about the experience, I'm happy to get on a call and talk to people about it. So,
I'm so
yeah.
glad we met. For the viewers out there, thank you for joining us for this Blood Money episode. Make sure you check out AmericaHappens.com, where we have a lot of our selected episodes on there, and our Rumble channel, America Happens. Thank you so much. I will see you on the next episode of Blood Money.
Over the last 30 years, we have seen the value of our work diminish and the price of real assets like land and homes increase to the point that for most people under the age of 40, the hope of owning their own home has been lost. The response of governments around the world to the 2008 global financial crisis and COVID was to defer the cost of these events to the future. They did this by printing money, in effect selling our futures to pay for their bad decisions. This is corporatism, not capitalism. Money printing didn't hurt those in power, nor those who supported them, because they had real assets, property, shares in businesses that rose in price to match the inflation of money supply. But for most of us around the world, it sold our future for a fraction of its value. In response to this, a mysterious figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. He wanted to create a currency that could not be printed on command, thereby devaluing our labor. A currency that could be traded electronically between people without intermediation, allowing all of us to participate fairly in the economy. But if you tried to buy your groceries with Bitcoin, you'd stand at the checkout for at least 10 minutes, probably hours, waiting for the transaction to process, and the fee would cost you more than the carton of eggs and bag of apples. Bitcoin's limitations meant that it stopped being considered a currency in 2016 and was instead called a store of value. But it opened the door for someone to create a genuine currency that nobody controlled, but everyone could use. That someone is us. We created the Gajumaru blockchain and the Gaju currency. The Gaju is real money you can use, whether that is to buy a loaf of bread, pay for a haircut, buy a t-shirt, in fact buy or sell anything. It is a currency for everyday use. On Gaju Market, anyone can buy and sell any legal goods or services, just like you would on eBay, but at a fraction of the cost. Like Bitcoin, Gajus are mined on a computer. Unlike Bitcoin, mining Gajus does not require specialized equipment, nor huge power supplies. During our protected rollout, you can mine this on everyday computers, like the ones that sit in your home doing nothing for most of the day. We are working to get millions of people like you to mine the Gajumaru and be rewarded with Gajus that you can then use as real money. At the end of 2026, the Gajumaru will open to public mining. By then, we will have brought together millions of people like you to mine the Gajumaru. This will create such powerful combined computing capacity across so many millions of people that the Gajumaru can remain highly decentralized, enabling an economy for the people, by the people. To make all of this possible, we offer a variety of mining packages that combine all of the software and services you need on our website, gajumining.com. The software is simple to install, and there is a step-by-step guide that will get you mining and participating quickly and easily. You can buy those packages now. You can start mining the Gajumaru and being rewarded in Gajus now. Select a suitable mining package from the gajumining.com web store. Install and activate the software on your device and start mining today. This is an opportunity to be part of a movement to restore our humanity, our dignity, our sovereignty, creating a better future for everyone. For the first time in thousands of years, you will directly benefit from your work, your ideas, without being taxed by intermediaries or needing permission to be part of the global economy. We believe that capitalism is I win, you win, we all win, not I win, you lose. That's corporatism. We refuse to pursue venture funding that would demand we play the corporatist game, and chose instead to grow this movement by giving everyone the opportunity to benefit from their contribution to the movement. Just like being able to mine Bitcoin in 2008 or 2009, getting early access to mining the Gajumaru now allows you to mine the greatest number of Gajus and benefit most from being part of this movement. We want to share that with you. We want the whole world to be part of this. We want everyone who cares about our future to get on board and take this from a movement to a reality. We want to see an economy for the people, by the people, now. Join us. Put your fingerprints on humanity's story, our history. Be a leader in the economic emancipation of humanity. It's simple. Go to gajumining.com, select the mining package that's right for you, and get started today.